Afternoon, guys. Fitpocalypse here, going over a Glock. Again, just simple cleaning, field stripping, and what I do in regards to all of that, plus lubrication. Lubrication is important. So I'm running, again, 19X, TLR7A, just a 500 lumen light, nothing fancy. Is it necessary for handguns? Not so much, but it does help in regards to just, again, my bedside handgun. So biggest thing, especially with a Glock, is make sure you are clear of any bullets inside the firing system. So Glock's a little funky with it. We've got this little retention tab here on either side, and it's awkward. You gotta make sure it's out of battery. So what I do is I actually put my hand up against it, hence why. Make sure it's clear. Press it out there, out of battery. It gets everything just kind of out of the way of the tab. I'm going to press on both sides, again, with my thumb. I'm gonna press both of them down. I'm gonna run it forward. And then in order to actually release it, you have to have the striker out of place back here. So in order to do that, we're going to pull the trigger. Slides everything straight out the front. And you can see where that carbon builds up on both the lower receiver and the slide. So, just like we did with the 1911 brushes, my favorite, again, Q-tips, and either some Hoppy's 9 CLP, clean lubricant protectant, or what I like to run sometimes is frog lube. This was pretty cheap from my local gun store where I work at. I was able to snag it up, and it actually smells minty. Kind of nice. I like it. But let's get started. First thing I'm going to start with, probably the lower. We'll start there. It's always a fun way to go. Bottom up, right? So I'm going to start with the lower, and we're going to have the back section here with the striker platform. It's just kind of the sear, and then you've got the trigger mechanism right up in here. So I'm going to brush it all out. Again, pretty heavy in the carbon. Just get into the nooks and crannies, clean off all that excess lead buildup, excess carbon buildup, and it truly doesn't take too long. This right here, guys, because it is kind of tight spaces, is where Q-tips come in handy. I'm gonna kind of make sure I get all that cleaned off, cleared off as best as I can. I actually have my full cleaning kit with me this time. It's not filming at 10 at night when the kiddos are sleeping, so grabbed that before doing this. And I've got a kind of a conglomeration of bore snakes, bore brushes, rods, screws, bits, Allen keys, just anything and everything I can need to either maintain or clean my firearms. So one of my other things to grab, an old rag, old t-shirt, nothing complicated. What you have on you is usually going to be what's best when things go down. In the apocalypse, you're not going to be able to find everything you need, so make do with what you got. So honestly, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure motor oil would work for a lubricant on this. High temperature, keeps everything sliding nice and smooth. Might gunk up a little bit quick, I'm not sure. This is something to test out. We might have to do that. Anyway, I'm gonna keep just kind of rubbing everything down, getting into those tight little nooks and crannies. You do want to be careful though that you're not pulling on any springs or anything that needs to be in there. Just kind of a gentle little push and rub. And again, you can see that spring right on the inside of that. So we're gonna be careful. I mean, get in and get it, but don't get in and get it and yank it out and have a messed up gun. Again, you take care of your stuff. you got a very, very, very low chance of it failing on you. So there's the lower. Again, nothing simple, or nothing complicated, and that's why I like Glock. They're not complicated. 2-stage recoil spring means that there's a spring inside of a spring. Makes it nice. The idea behind them is to have easier recoil management. You got more energy to it. You can run hotter loads. It's gonna cycle still. And then the barrel, again, just like the 1911, just like this one here. Quick rub on the outside because you got it flexing back and forth. I'm gonna get the feed ramp here, that right there, the bottom portion, get around it. And then I'm gonna run my bore brush all the way through it. And again, she's not terribly dirty. There you go. We didn't send a lot of rounds through it, but I want it prepped and ready to go because you never know when you're gonna need that firearm, and you want that firearm to be in the best condition it can be for when things happen. That's why you clean your stuff. You know, I had a rant earlier, and it was deliberately about cleaning. I work at a local gun store, guys. We know this. And I've had so many people come up to the gun counter complaining that their firearm scope doesn't hold zero, they're shooting all over the place, can't hit the broadside of a barn, what have yous and whatnots, the usual. So we're like, yeah, no problem. We will get that taken care of for you. Grab them a new scope, get it sighted and bore sighted. But the minute they hand us that rifle, sure enough, it is caked in dirt, dust, dead animal blood, anything and everything, let alone had any kind of lubricant run through that firearm. So right here, it's just a little bit of a cotton rod, cotton brush. I like to use these just to kind of clean up a little bit of copper and lead. Just gonna pick up that little bit on the inside. Q-tip just kind of, again, picks it all up. If I had a lot of rounds put through this, a copper brush is always best, again, just to kind of really break everything out. You know, you don't want to use steel. Steel will scratch everything up. I mean, you can in certain circumstances. I never have. Even in some of the, you know, big range days I had with law enforcement or the military or anything like that, it just never needed one. So a little bit of a copper brush, run it through, call it good. And there we go, clean barrel. Now the Glock is run on this striker system. There's no, I mean, it's technically a firing pin right here on this spring, right there. But it's, again, not complicated. When Gadsden Glock invented this thing in 1984, he started building up different prototypes and things like that. It wasn't until 87 with the Glock 17 platform that he won the Austrian law enforcement contract for it. And he went and spoke to a bunch of prior servicemen. Wasn't really a gun guy himself, but he bought a couple just to see how they fit and function and operated, and boom, here we have the Glock. So it's used by militaries and law enforcement worldwide. The 9mm platform is definitely more of a NATO thing. So here's another fun fact for you. While I was reading into the 1911 and some fun history with it, we, as the Americans, went from 45 ACP to 9mm, not because of efficiency and cost spending or anything else like that. It was actually originally because NATO. NATO, with the rise of them after World War II, I believe, ended up wanting a standardized world military to help peacekeep. And we, as Americans, being the strong arm of NATO, decided, yeah, let's do that. So I have a good feeling that if we didn't become part of NATO, or we decided to do our own thing away from NATO, that we would have probably, again, really pulling out that carbon, probably would have stuck with the 45 ACP. Get right into that slide, guys. And this one is definitely looped or hooked. You can see right there. got kind of a little in cut. So I try to get into there as best as I can. Use the brush, break it up, use the Q-tip to really pull all that out, and that's what it's doing. It's pulling it all out. Who'd have thought? Grocery store Q-tips. Best thing you can use for gun cleaning. And there's guys who use, you know, carbon buster, copper buster. Guys, I've kept it simple. Again, how much access you're gonna have to things like that when you no longer have a supply chain. Keep it simple. Do what you can with what you got and make it work. Trust me. There's smarter men out there who've made it work with less. Giving a good wipe down of everything now. Again, we can go through an even more detailed breakdown of the Glock, just like we can with the 1911. I'm sure there'll be other platforms you guys have questions about. I'll be happy to pull them out and we'll figure it out. So again, good wipe down of everything. It's not needing much today. Again, we only threw maybe 24, 30 rounds through this when we were shooting it the other day. Normally, I'm pretty anal retentive and like to clean my stuff the exact same time, or the same day that I go to the range and I get home. But life happens. Take care of your kids, take care of the wife, take care of the dog, because they're more important. And keeping them safe is why we do what we do with what we got. Anyway, when it comes to lubricating, metal on metal contacts, that's what you want. We're gonna do a little bit, and this is a spray bottle, so I tend to kind of overdo it. Actually, here's a better way. Right off the slide. And give a little bit in each corner, just like I did with the 1911. And let that run down. You see it run down. Just metal on metal contact. Let that sit for a second, just because I do also want to make sure I lube a little bit right on here, because that's again what is pulling on that there. This is sliding back. This right here is going to slide down with the trigger. You'll kind of see it if I can get it. Nope, can't get it. Point being, this right here is what helps slide away from that when this is pushed back as it's in place, and this drops the firing pin into the primer to fire the bullet. Simple enough. Barrel to slide and back in place. Always pay attention to which end these are. I know SIG has one of these that it's kind of like an oblong one, and you have to fit it a certain way for it to actually lock back. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but that's all right. Lock that in. In the Gen 4.5, that's technically what this is. In the Gen 5 Glocks, you can actually lock them in from the halfway point, like this, right there. If I can get it in there and there. I don't really care for doing that. I like the Gen 3 ones where it's just all the way from the front, because that way everything's all lined up. Now again, nothing's actually going to be caught here, and you'll see how this dips down when it's coming up onto that recoil spring. The best way to lock it in is literally just to pull it all the way back. It dips underneath it, and it sends it home. Work it a couple times, make sure it's good to go. Again, make sure it functions all right. And that's it. Your basic breakdown for field strip and cleaning of a Glock. Whether it's Glock 21 and 45, Glock 20 and a 10, they all break down the same. They all function the same. One's beefier than the other. You know, Glock 380 calibers, Glock 9mm, 357 SIG. Glocks come out in a lot of different platforms, a lot of different things. And again, it's basic, it's easy, and it's so renowned around the world. You're gonna find all the parts and pieces to it, which is why we chose it. Anyways, you guys take care, train hard, stay fit.